The night of July 3, 2025, nearly marked a turning point in history. Beneath the icy waves near Iceland, a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, one of the most formidable naval vessels ever built, came dangerously close to being ambushed by a Russian submarine. Tension rippled through the command deck of the USS Thomas Hudner when its sonar operator picked up a subtle acoustic disturbance. It was faint, almost ghost-like, yet unmistakable, a silent threat edging dangerously close to the USS Gerald R. Ford. What had begun as a routine patrol quickly escalated into a nerve-wracking showdown. In a matter of minutes, a deadly Yazen-class submarine had maneuvered into a perfect strike position, just a single torpedo away from delivering catastrophic damage to the American supercarrier. The world held its breath. What happened next? How did the U.S. Navy counter a threat that had the potential to spark global turmoil? At exactly 2:17 a.m., the USS Thomas Hudner, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, stood watch as part of the Gerald R. Ford's carrier strike group. Their objective was routine: monitor North Atlantic traffic and ensure maritime security. But that mission veered into danger the moment sonar technician Second Class Rodriguez identified something strange: an irregular blip on the sonar screen. It wasn't just ocean static or a harmless fishing boat. For a split second, the signal blended into the ambient underwater noise. Yet something felt wrong. The sound was too rhythmic, too calculated. The contact was moving steadily at 12 knots, on a direct path toward the Gerald R. Ford. Rodriguez's instincts kicked in. Every part of his training screamed one word: submarine. A Yazen-class Russian nuclear-powered attack sub, to be precise. The USS Thomas Hudner swiftly called General Quarters. Captain Sarah Mitchell, seasoned and decisive, immediately activated Protocol 7, standard operating procedure for a submarine threat near a critical naval asset. Within moments, the ship burst into coordinated action. The strike group shifted positions, destroyers altered course, and frigates deployed sonar buoys to construct a defensive shield. Still, the Russian submarine remained a silent, ever-present danger, just 38 miles away. Cloaked in near invisibility, the Yazen-class sub exploited the ocean's thermal layers to stay concealed, its advanced systems making it the perfect underwater predator. To all appearances, the Russian submarine was nothing more than a shadow beneath the waves, almost invisible, even to the U.S. Navy's most cutting-edge detection systems. Overhead, the USS Gerald R. Ford carried on with its operations, unaware that a deadly adversary was silently circling below. Based on classified intelligence, the submarine was likely either the Severodvinsk or Novosibirsk, both elite Yazen-class vessels. It was closing in fast, using its advanced stealth and agility to slip into an optimal attack position. Despite being shielded by an impressive array of U.S. destroyers, a Los Angeles-class sub, and constant aerial surveillance, the Ford had gone unalerted to the Russian sub's presence until it was almost too late. For a harrowing 14 minutes, everything hung by a thread. The Russian submarine held position, its warhead just one torpedo away from sinking the pride of the U.S. Navy. As the tension mounted, the American response kicked into gear, swift, deliberate, and masterfully orchestrated to confront the silent danger stalking them from the depths. The Navy's strategy was about to be tested in full. The USS Thomas Hudner, being closest to the target, had already fixed the sub's approximate location. But that wasn't enough to guarantee safety. The threat was far too imminent. Immediate escalation was necessary. The turning point came with the deployment of a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, one of the most essential tools in the U.S. Navy's anti-submarine warfare playbook. Scrambled from Naval Air Station Keflavik in Iceland, the Poseidon was airborne within minutes, racing toward the Ford strike group. Its job was critical: establish a sonar barrier, a perimeter of acoustic sensors designed to trap the enemy sub and force it to surface or break off. The Poseidon is unmatched in capability. Outfitted with cutting-edge sonar arrays and magnetic anomaly detection systems, it's engineered to locate even the stealthiest underwater threats. Its real-time sonar analysis could separate marine life from cargo vessels and detect hostile targets with precision. In mere minutes, the Poseidon had deployed its sonar buoys in a tight grid around the Gerald R. Ford, forming a detection net that the Russian submarine couldn't penetrate. What had been a silent pursuit suddenly turned into a trap, and the hunter was now being hunted. Yet the Navy wasn't done. Just 12 minutes after initial contact, the USS Virginia, a nuclear-powered fast-attack submarine, sprang into action. Patrolling independently 40 nautical miles from the strike group, the Virginia utilized its own sophisticated sonar to pinpoint the Russian sub's location. As it closed in silently, a deadly underwater duel began. Both submarines were now fully aware of each other. Beneath the ocean surface, a tense cat-and-mouse pursuit was underway, one that could shape the fate of nations. The stakes had never been higher. The faintest sound, the slightest shift in position, could reveal either submarine's location and trigger a devastating confrontation. It was a deadly chess match in the dark, where one misstep could mean annihilation. As the two submarines continued their tactical maneuvers, the tension only thickened. The Russian vessel, realizing its position had become too exposed, initiated a dive into deeper waters, a standard evasive tactic intended to slip beneath sonar coverage. But the move came too late. The U.S. Navy had already secured what's known in naval warfare as a firing solution lock. They had successfully triangulated the submarine's position. The Gerald R. Ford was now out of immediate danger, but the threat still loomed. A single oversight, a momentary lapse, and the situation could have spiraled into chaos. That's when the Navy executed a calculated psychological maneuver, one designed to end the standoff without firing a shot. Through its underwater communications system, the USS Virginia sent a clear, authoritative message across the depths. "Unknown submarine, you are being tracked. Recommend immediate departure from this area." The transmission, delivered in both English and Russian, left no room for doubt. The hunted had become the target. Now fully aware it had been compromised, the Russian submarine faced an impossible choice: attempt a daring escape or stand down and retreat. Psychological pressure was bearing down hard. Yet it was clear, the U.S. had seized control of the encounter through a mix of technology, coordination, and resolve. The Virginia maintained a steady pursuit, ensuring every movement of the Russian submarine was shadowed and logged. This level of precision depended on the seamless integration of multiple naval assets. The P-8 Poseidon sonar buoys supplied constant real-time updates, while the Virginia refined and confirmed the sub's position with surgical accuracy. Meanwhile, the strike group's destroyers and frigates remained on high alert, ready to respond should the situation escalate. The air was thick with anticipation. For 14 intense minutes, the Russian submarine had held steady, biding its time for a potential strike. But every passing second only increased the risk of detection and elimination. The Virginia's persistent chase was a testament to the Navy's dominance in underwater combat. This wasn't simply about safeguarding a single carrier. It was about showcasing the U.S. Navy's unmatched precision and command in life-or-death scenarios. Seeing its window of opportunity rapidly closing, the Russian submarine resorted to a desperate measure. It began a deep dive into the cold, dark abyss of the North Atlantic, hoping to vanish into the ocean's layered thermal zones to break free from tracking. It was a classic move in submarine warfare, using depth and temperature gradients to confuse sonar. But it came with risks. Diving too deep compromises agility and exposes the sub to more aggressive U.S. countermeasures, a gamble that only the most pressured commanders dare take. This was no ordinary submarine pursuit. The U.S. Navy had layered its defenses with strategic depth, and now, with the USS Virginia honing in, that advantage was being fully exploited. The Russian sub's window of opportunity was narrowing fast, and its once ideal firing position was rapidly slipping away. But just as the confrontation seemed headed toward a resolution, a twist emerged. As the Russian submarine plunged deeper into the Atlantic, the U.S. Navy pivoted swiftly. The USS Gerald R. Ford, accompanied by its entire carrier strike group, shifted its heading. This maneuver wasn't merely evasive, it was calculated deception. The goal wasn't just survival, but strategic superiority. By altering course, the carrier group aimed to scramble the Russian sub's targeting data, making it exponentially more difficult to get a clean shot. The mission had entered a new phase, one of total underwater dominance. While the Russian subs struggled to maintain the upper hand, U.S. naval forces tightened their grip. Each move was met with immediate counteraction, a relentless display of control. The signal to Moscow was unambiguous. America's determination, empowered by advanced technology and naval prowess, was unshakable. As the crucial 14-minute standoff neared its end, the U.S. Navy had accomplished its objective: defend its flagship and establish supremacy in the North Atlantic. But what followed shifted the nature of the engagement entirely. With no viable escape and full knowledge that it had been detected, the Russian submarine resorted to an unorthodox and dangerous tactic, one the U.S. hadn't fully predicted. In a bold escalation, the sub launched a cyber attack. Suddenly chaos. U.S. command systems flickered under pressure. Communications scrambled, sonar feeds distorted, and sensor updates lagged. It was a strategic gamble. For the first time, Russia had deployed sophisticated cyber warfare during an active underwater encounter. The intent was clear: sow enough digital confusion to either slip away unnoticed or gain a final chance at a torpedo launch. This new dimension to the conflict revealed the changing nature of war. It wasn't just about sonar and speed. It was about data, networks, and the invisible electromagnetic battlespace. For a tense few moments, even the most advanced detection equipment buckled under the assault. But this wasn't a fleet caught off guard. The U.S. Navy had prepared for scenarios that reached beyond traditional warfare. And while the cyber attack was disruptive, it wasn't enough to tip the balance. The Navy had contingencies in place, and now it was time to activate them. In a heartbeat, the Navy's countermeasures roared to life. Cutting-edge electronic warfare systems were immediately activated, launching a coordinated digital counterattack against the Russian intrusion. Affected systems were quarantined, operational control was restored, and communications were brought back online, fast. Still, the message was clear. While the sabotage failed, it underscored the shifting shape of modern combat. This wasn't just a battle waged beneath the waves anymore. It was a multi-front war, where victory hinged on mastery of both physical and digital domains. The Russian sub's escape was no longer guaranteed, and this brush with cyber warfare reminded both sides that future confrontations would reach far beyond sonar pings and torpedoes. The July 3, 2025 incident in the North Atlantic wasn't merely a near miss for the USS Gerald R. Ford, it was a global wake-up call. In just minutes, the world saw modern naval warfare laid bare: the precision stalking of silent submarines, the employment of psychological pressure, and the sudden escalation through cyber attacks. Strategically, it showcased the U.S. Navy's unmatched ability to detect, isolate, and neutralize threats. The layered defense network, the P-8 Poseidon's rapid deployment, and the USS Virginia's surgical pursuit all operated in perfect synchronization. The response wasn't just effective, it was flawless. It affirmed the U.S. Navy's position as a dominant force in contested waters. But the deeper implications of this standoff extend far beyond operational success. The Russian submarines' near ambush revealed how warfare is no longer confined to conventional theaters. Cyber intrusions, stealth advances, and evolving undersea technologies now define the battlefield. For the U.S. Navy, maintaining superiority means adapting to this new era of multi-domain warfare, where seas, skies, and cyberspace collide. This engagement will undoubtedly shape future U.S. defense strategy and influence NATO's doctrine on underwater threats. As both nations refine their tactics, it's evident that coming clashes may be even more sophisticated and unpredictable. The demand for cutting-edge innovation and global coordination has never been higher. Naval operations, once thought to be contained within traditional zones, now stretch into the boundless terrain of digital warfare. The narrow escape in the Atlantic sent tremors through strategic command centers and international policy halls alike. What began as a routine patrol rapidly became a sobering reminder of how fragile global stability truly is. Had the Gerald R. Ford been struck, the consequences would have reached far beyond its $11 billion price tag. The toll in human lives, the collapse of deterrence, and the ripple effect across NATO would have pushed the world to the brink. Escalation would have followed, swift, overwhelming, and likely irreversible. This wasn't just a potential military defeat. It was a moment that nearly rewrote history. A strike on the Ford wouldn't just damage hardware. It would have shattered the carefully maintained equilibrium that underpins international peace. Instead, the United States reaffirmed its role not only as a superpower, but as a guardian of global order. This encounter served as a powerful reminder. In an unpredictable world, strength, adaptability, and technological edge are what keep chaos at bay. As the Navy maintains its vigilant watch, peace holds, for now. But the lesson is unmistakable. The unthinkable is always one misstep away. Stay informed. Subscribe. History doesn't wait. And that concludes what Red Zone Secrets has for you today, bringing you sharp, accurate insights, backed by expert military analysis and strategic research. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Your support inspires us to deliver more deep dive content every week. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for our next report. Until next time.